She said, so for me to go back to Beardstown and give a lecture, she said, these people are working 18-hour shifts in a pork slaughtering plant. She said, they don't have time or the energy to understand. And this, you know, and Susan's telling you, I've read her book 3 times. It's not easy to understand what she's talking about. So I read it 3 times. So she said to me and Mark, she said, could you guys write a traveling show and have it based on the book, use a lot of the quotes of the people, and then go back to Beardstown and perform it for the people who were my source? And we said, yeah.
Okay.
We do theater. We do political theater. It was the first time anyone from the academy had kind of approached us who are not in the academy or not in the university anymore with a really interesting proposal. That was somewhere around 2012. We spent 3.5 years trying to write the play version of this. We did it with our school group, and everything was always like 3 hours long, way too long. You don't travel with a 3-hour show, you know.
Oh, of course not.
No. So we finally last year this is 2017, finished about a 40-minute version called Glow Heart. Here's the poster. Glow Heart, which is built on global heartlands. So Mark Ensign and I wrote it together, and we put in music and dancing and instruments to keep people awake, and used a lot of the stuff here, plus added our own weird twists. And this was the one version where Ferren Act went, yes, that's good. So conceptually, I was interested in immigration and why do people come here. But I didn't really get interested in immigrants until the following happened. We thought, being good people, that if we were going to have somebody from Togo speak, then why didn't we find someone from Togo in town or from Congo and have those people play the actors? And I really got interested in immigrant, people who are emigrating, because every time last year we tried to find people, Congolese people, no one would give us their address or their email or their phone number. People were concealing people. Mexicans, we had a really good part for somebody from Mexico. People would say things like, yeah, I do know somebody, but you're going to have to come to my house tomorrow to meet him. And I'd say, well, couldn't I just email them? They go, no. I'd say, well, their phone? No, it doesn't have a phone. And so this happened with Congolese, Togolese, Mexican, Hispanics. And then it was clear what was happening was that people felt so uneasy that their friends would not let you have access to them. Like the best African grocery store that's by the adult ed, Mama Lisette, the very bouncy and smart woman, said to me, yeah, I have a few Congolese, yeah. And I go, could I call them? No, come here tomorrow at 3. I said, but I could email them. No, tomorrow at 3. And then it was difficult to schedule rehearsals because nobody was reachable. So then I thought, this is what is happening. And then I began to understand that people couldn't even be in a theater performance because they felt too visible and too frightened. Yeah. And then I learned that Champaign-Urbana has the second largest Congolese population in the whole United States. The first one is in Texas somewhere, Austin or something. I live around Crystal Lake Park. There's a lot of Congolese in the apartment buildings there. So I just felt this presence of many invisibilized people. And I have never liked people beating up on the vulnerable. That really infuriates me. Just really infuriates me. I guess because I'm a white, educated person who's saucy, I always feel like these bullies are stupid and that I have been put on earth to show their stupidity.
Put them in their place.
Put them in their place. Yeah. So hence I then became really interested in what was going on with immigration, and have tried to figure out in our seminar on Sunday, and whose interest is the persecution of immigrants happening? Why is this happening? Who's making money off of this? And why is it a global phenomenon? And you said last week at the forum that it's just one side of the picture, them coming here. What the other side of the picture is, why do they need to leave home? And that, as a matter of fact, Ferren Act's book she went back to their places of origin. So she went back to Togo and Congo and Tejaro, Mexico, and saw, like in Mexico, certain towns there, everybody has heard of Beardstown because all their relatives are.
Yeah, yeah.
But of course, in Beardstown, no one has heard of Tejaro. I mean, the people that came from there.
Right.
And so she talks a lot about how the places of origin are in some ways subsidizing the people who are leaving their town to go work in Beardstown because they take care of the people in Tejaro, Mexico, take you back when you're old and tired and can't work for Cargill or for these pork packaging. They educate you. They watch your kids. You know, the grandparents are watching your 4-year-old child because when you're doing pork packaging, you have to work 18-hour shifts. So that is a very, we've tried in our play to actually, every time we show someone who has emigrated, we put a film on them of their families back home. So you see this double picture of someone who's living here but is connected to their family back home. Another great thing that Ferren Act has done here, she talks about immigration as being a production. It's produced. It's not natural. I heard her talk many times when people would say that sentence, well, we're all immigrants, right? It's sometime we all came here. And she goes, yes, that's true, but that's not what I'm talking about in my book. I'm talking about currently it is a commercial production of this particular class called Immigrant. So from that material, we ended up creating this play and always have a discussion afterwards. We don't play in like Cranard. We play in juvenile detention center, the best places in the world.
Yeah.
And then we traveled to a bunch of little towns in Illinois that I just learned that 3/4 of Illinois is bordered up with a for sale sign all over the place. It's a really, I didn't realize Illinois was such an impoverished state.
Yeah.
And when you travel to small towns, Ottawa, Illinois, never heard of it, you just see that you begin to understand the attraction of the Trump mythology for people that are down and out and white. You know, who do you blame it on? How come Rantoul is in Rantoul's state, where Rantoul Foods, or whatever it's called, is one of the biggest industries there. It's a horrible, horrible plant. We went there to put up posters at Rantoul Foods. It's a pork processing place. And we said, where is the office? And somebody said, the nurse, right? And we said, the office of the nurse? No. He said, oh, well, the other office. And as we passed, there must have been 50 people in the office of the nurse who had been hurt that day. And then we went into the other office where nobody was there. But it's just something to think about. Yeah. Choices that people make. So that's a little bit,
Yes.
That's where I got interested in immigration. First from making characters that talk about their plight, and then from trying to find actors, and then realizing there's just an intimidated population floating about.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Not uncommon, though. I mean, in the sense of, like, a lot of times it takes a personal experience of some sort, like, in order for a story to become real for people.
Yeah, it's true.
You have to, like, you know, I got into this because my sister died of whatever, you know, and then so now this means something to me. You may have known about it and heard about it.
Yeah, but it didn't matter
years,
that
but
much.
it just
No.
didn't touch you. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and the fact that we were falsely going around performing being a Congolese, and you know, we were basically have been a team of 7 white actors, taking the place of the people that really should have been acting in it, but then feeling like, okay, we're telling their story. Yeah, and it was coupled with all this traveling around to small towns, an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours away, and just seeing how poor Illinois is, how poured, it's been poured. Somebody poured it.
Yes.
Yeah, and then talking to people in the little cafes about what do they think about this and that. And invariably, if they were white, they'd say, like at the end of our performance, people would say, well, we see your point. The corporations have been, you know, messing with both the white people and the immigrant people. And then there'd be, but you know, things went way down the minute those Mexicans came to our town. It would be kind of like, and I say, and then some of them would go, how can you say that? The things were bad already. They closed the plant already, you know? So they opened it up to give Mexicans $6 an hour. You never wanted that job. Yeah, but the whole point was the town was better without all those brown people. And that's the origins of what's happening. Kind of. The explanation for why was the town, you know, great once, And now why is it bordered up with the Mexican grocery store is the only thing that's happening in that town. Everybody goes to the Mexican taqueria, but everything else is closed. Yeah, so that was interesting to see. I mean, even this picture of a house in Beardstown, it kind of shows the Mexican flowers and everything like that. And what's also good about this book is that Ferren Act tries to also show the great things. She does not want the final chapter of the story to be the power of the corporation. She wants it to be these things that people, even in Beardstown, have managed to do. These, since they can't inside the plant talk about unions or anything, they do a lot of coordinating over their kids or sports. This Beardstown has its public school is a trilingual school. English, French, and Spanish. And this they did by having the teachers of their school go to every single parent who had a child in that school and ask them to say, yes, we want it to be a trilingual school. And they went to every single parent. So, you know, that's pretty astonishing that in that kind of a town they would have people agreeing that they want their kids to learn both English but also French and Spanish. And so it's a real accomplishment for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, and she's trying to talk about the idea of, okay, so it's all cemented pavement, but there is these little tendrils of flowers growing up. So when we would do these really tragic endings of the structure of the system, she'd go, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a tragic ending. She really wants to talk about the possibilities of making space into place and what that power is. So that was, and then, as I'm on a roll,
Yeah.
this summer, a friend made a beautiful, gorgeous puppet theater, about 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 feet. Okay.
That's a very cool puppet.
We decided, yeah, this is Karen Willowich in Eugene, Oregon.
Willowich?
Willowich, yes, she's a
Karen
puppet maker.
Willowich? Oh,
this is the person.
I thought
who
that
makes-
was Karen.
No,
Like,
no, this is her
I was
puppets.
like, okay, I was gonna.
So we decided to make puppet shows on immigration, and didn't realize that a puppet theater for people at the farmer's market. So people at the farmer's market, if they see a puppet theater, they immediately bring every child under age 3 to go see
Right.
it. And we were making these sophisticated economic, and the minute we would say things like ice, they'd be like, we have to go now, honey. And our entire first audience would disappear.
Yeah, yeah.
So then we started to try to learn how to do puppet shows where the kids would love it and their parents would hang around and the parents would see that it was a message also for them. I also learned, I know I'm doing nonstop talking, but in a public environment where people can come and go, you have to be very careful of what you say, because we did a little puppet show where we were making fun of how Americans think, North Americans, that it's really easy to get your documentation.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, so we had somebody going, you know, in my apartment complex, there's a lady, she's Mexican, she's been there for 10 years. She still hasn't gotten her papers together. Now, is that lazy or what? I mean, all she has to do is go down to the immigration place and just pay the fee and get her papers, right? And some person passed that by, thought we were a bunch of racist homophobes.
Oh, no.
Wrote a furious letter to the farmer's market person saying, you have people who hate, you have people who are putting down Mexicans. It's like, no, we were making fun of that.
Yeah.
So then I learned we're in times where you just can't do that. You cannot make fun that way.
You have to be careful.
You have to be real, because people really, they just think you're... I was even checking out puppet shows on the internet, and I saw some puppet shows that were similarly like what we were doing. We were trying to make fun of Americans, but all it sounded like we were hating on the Mexicans. So I was like, oh, that's not going to happen anymore, or we can't say stuff like that.
Yeah, sarcasm and things
in
like that.
these times, yes.
It's difficult to even tell what's what anymore.
Yes, yes.
But that's how, oddly enough, that is how a lot of people think of immigration. It's like
like a bunch of-
infestation. It's something coming here. It's weird. It's different. It's scary. I don't want that. I want, I want this. I want everything to be
Homogeneity.
familiar. And
Yeah.
this is like, what is that?
Right.
It's coming here. So it's not surprising that they use the terminology of
infestation
infestation when they talk about it. And it's really disturbing, though, because you're talking about people. You're not talking about bugs. The reason I don't want to share space with this bug there are multiple reasons.
Yeah.
One is that they feed on dirty things, and
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you can get
definitely.
diseases from insects,
Right.
and yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not. I don't have to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they do use that infestation
Mm-hmm.
metaphor. I wrote, would you permit me to read a small
Please do. Yeah,
thing that I wrote? Because you may actually have a problem with it because of what you just said.
we're technically going over our time, but that's okay because we started late and we've had
What time?
multiple
I actually have no
interruptions.
idea.
It's 8:04 right now, but there's no show that follows this, so we
Okay,
can
all
go
right.
as far as
Well, then, just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
I will read this thing.
by all means. It's only 15 pages.
No, I'm just reading the last scene. I won't do that to you.
That's fine.
Okay, so this we had played by a 12-year-old young woman. It's a long scene at the very end, but this is what it does. My friends, when you look at me, I should see on your face a look of amazement, like this, full of curiosity, full of disbelief. You cannot take your eyes off me. Go ahead, let me see. Look amazed. Why? Because I am an immigrant, a migrant laborer, ladies and gentlemen. I am part of the vast movement of displaced workers. We don't just grow on trees. We don't just happen naturally. No, we have been produced. We are a production. We are the result of deliberate global economic policies designed to produce us. Immigrant, displaced laborer, produced by whom? Produced for what? And if produced again and again, we immigrants keep coming. In whose interest is it that this production continues? Immigration is a trap. Traps don't just happen. They're set. Think of trapping mice. 3 steps. First, you chase them out of wherever they're comfortable. Then, second, you entice them with a little cheese. And then, once they take it, slam! They trip the trap. Immigration is a trap, too. Also a 3-step trap. 1, 2, 3. Because look at here. Once you mess with the sources of people's livelihood in their place of origin. That's step 1, pressuring them to leave. Second, you offer them work somewhere else. And what else can they do? That's enticing. Third, you force them into places not of their choosing, low wages, dangerous work, prevent unionizing, racialize them, criminalize, resent them, exploit them, manipulate them politically, give them high-interest loans, threaten them with deportation, eviction, slam, 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 slam. 1, 2, 3. A baby. Born a human being, but to turn a human into an immigrant? Now that's a production. Amazing, yes? I accept your amazement. Come on, come on. Yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you, my friends. Now you are looking at me right. That's the end of that play. So, your infestation language made me worry about our trap language.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, I think what you're doing, the tricky part, is you're differentiating between an immigrant and a person who immigrates, which is not the same thing. An immigrant is as you say, a production. It's something that is produced. It is created. A situation is created where people are forced into this role. It's a role you take on. Whereas the people that are forced into those roles, like they're the actors in your play. They're not the characters. They're the actors. So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying there. It's just there are so many different ways of looking at things.
No, but you're also right that okay, I didn't think of it this way, but it would make it an interesting
2 times.
theater piece to show people who have fallen into or pushed into this production of the immigration experience, and then the person who is this unique person who feels an alienation even from the immigrant experience. But, you know, because the bunch of times we talk to people from Congo and things like that, and my friend Mark is really good at this, they were so spiky and full of all sorts of personality. They weren't the pathetic victim. They had opinions and dislikes of people. They didn't like, you know, a lot of Congolese do not like African Americans in their neighborhood. They don't like their pants or what they're wearing, those shorts falling off. I'm not gonna let my kid. It's like, come on, you guys, hold it. Then very intelligent with Spinoza and Schopenhauer, and I remember thinking, you don't remind me of an immigrant at all. You're not supposed to act this way. And that was interesting to see that, you know, that difference between the production of immigration and the person who emigrates.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah, yeah. We even had a few people tell us what we left out of our play. One guy said, you know, you didn't show the 6 days I was in the desert. I said, no, we didn't show that. And then another guy said, but what you leave out is the fact that though it was horrible and hard to get here, and it's somewhat horrible to be here, we're really grateful to this country because we have opportunities here we'd never get in Mexico. How are you going to put that in your play? I said, we're not going to. It's too complicated.
That's the problem. I think a lot of people come, at least in my experience with the Immigration Forum, is a lot of people come to us looking for an answer. An answer to various questions. So here's a question: what is the answer? And there isn't that answer. There are many answers. There's multiple answers.
Yeah.
The answer to the question of the problem of immigration is to stop treating it like a problem.
Yeah.
And then all sorts of things go away, and then you have individual situations that exist.
Right.
You have other problems that exist, but the immigration itself is not the problem. It's the poverty here, the
NAFTA,
war there,
right.
you know,
climate change there,
those are still problems, whether immigration is a problem or not. But by creating immigration
as a problem,
you've just invented a new problem that disguises all these other ones.
Yeah, no, that's really a really good perception.
And so, I have the hardest time because I have to keep giving that speech over and over again to people who come and like, I want to volunteer, I want to help out, I want to go work with people in the community. It's like, okay, first, what is the community?
Yeah.
Where do you find them?
Right.
What work is it that you want to do with them? Oh, I want to teach them this or help them. It's like, well, a lot of these people don't necessarily need you to teach them anything. What they need is to alleviate the structural problems that are creating their situation. That you can't teach them that. I mean, it's like these kids that were at, I don't want, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Last week, you mean the people that were
at the last week, the meeting where they wanted to like do mentoring for, gosh, I shouldn't have put it that way. Not kids, these young people who their group wanted to do mentoring for unaccompanied minors. And it's like, well, yeah, but you've got language difficulties, you've got cultural difficulties, you've got all these different things before you can even begin helping them with something. And that's only assuming that you have any knowledge or interest in things that they're interested in, because they're not necessarily looking to go to college and become doctors and lawyers. A lot of the times they're just looking for money and work and a place to live where they're not going to be killed.
Yeah.
And that's they're 16 and 15, and you know, that's the sum total of, you know, when I was that age, I was like, I want to get an apartment on campus and hang out with all this, you know, I have, my horizon was like this big. You know, I didn't have all this stuff because I couldn't conceive of all that stuff. It was outside of my world. And their worlds are even different from mine. And I was here in a country where those things were possibilities, but not to me. Or it didn't seem that way to me. They're coming from places where those things aren't even possibilities to a place where the possibility is, hey, I could get a job and a house and have kids and live and it'll be okay. We won't starve. We won't be killed, you know. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really different thing. How are you
Right.
going to mentor somebody on that because you don't know anything about that? You've
Yeah.
never been there.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to say that directly to them, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I wanted to say something like that to them because I think what you're trying to do isn't something that anybody needs to have done necessarily, at least not in the way you're conceiving it. But those are the kinds of things that I run into all the time with the forum is
Yeah.
just people coming in with these ideas of how they're going to help. I went with a guy, I shouldn't even tell this story. You're bringing out all these stories that I shouldn't
Yeah,
say.
no, but
I went with a guy, this is a few years back, out to Rantoul to the migrant workers, and he had a bunch of clothes. I think it was like new clothes that he had a shop or something. He
Yeah.
closed it down. He had some extra clothes. He wanted to give them to people. I don't know what he was expecting, but what he got there was like, I mean, it's not like people coming up and going, "Oh, please, sir, I'll
Yes,
take
yes,
anything
yes,
you
yes.
give me, and I will be eternally grateful." It was like, "No, I don't want that. Do you have anything like this?" "Oh, okay, never mind." And that's how they were. And I was like, "Yeah, that makes
right.
sense because I wouldn't want that either."
Yeah.
And this guy was just,
Couldn't
you
believe
could
that they
tell he
weren't.
was inside. He was like, "Where's the adulation? Where are the flowers and the
Yeah,
garlands that
thank
they're
you,
hanging around my
master.
neck?"
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It was just a really uncomfortable situation for everybody because these people were just like walking up going, "Oh, there's free clothes? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I don't see anything I want."
Yeah. Sure.
Which-
Acting like a person who, has preferences and
Exactly.
dislikes and everything like that and is not immigrant,
Yeah.
grateful for whatever scrap they could get. Yeah, yeah, that's another good scene to show.
So these kinds of things are like really, this is what working with immigrants is like, is you find people, they may be somewhat interested in what you're doing, and you hope that you can explain it well enough to them for them to understand that here is the role that they could play if they're interested.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are, and they'll work with you, and other times they're not, and they'll go, "Oh, I don't care about that."
Yeah.
And then that's it. You're done. And that's working with an immigrant. That's what working with the community is like most of the time.
Right. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to
Not
lecture
so-
you.
No, no,
I'm just-
no, no, no. I even find the community overused. It's like we don't have a community here. We have small pockets of people, and they know each other. But when like Carl says, the Champaign-Urbana community, I go, you guys are making that up in your advertising language. Where, you got a community.
Talk to her about that. She studies that sort of thing, community and how where the word comes from and all that sort of
Wow,
thing. Yeah,
I'm sure that's
it's
really,
it's
it's a euphemism for all sorts of.
we've had many conversations on that. Anyway, I probably even with our
Okay.
bug paranoia and late start, we've probably gone well enough past our
Okay.
time that we should
Perfect.
probably quit. But I really appreciate your coming
Oh, this has
and
been
being a
great.
guest. I hope you'll come again sometime.
I would love to.
And talk about stuff.
Okay.
And next time, our friend hopefully will not be here. We will.
Do you want me to
Not
put
be
this
distracted.
poster under him or her and take it outside? I think
That would be cool if you
Sure.
think you can do it. Oh, anyway, so you have been listening, if you stuck with us this long, to CU Immigration Bug Show and Immigration Show here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. We appreciate you tuning in, and we hope that you will join us again someday. And until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.